What's going on, you guys? Theo here with the big review, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and today we are going to discuss the implications and the possibilities of a VIP system, both good and bad, and discuss that recent data mine. So before we get into all that, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. We are just shy of 900 subscribers, so let's go ahead and try and hit that number, and we will be doing another sweepstakes once we hit that point. So, what is a VIP system? So a VIP system, for those that are unaware, is basically a mileage that is going to reward you based upon how much money you have spent on the game over time. So as an example, you might have to unlock Tier 1, spend any amount of money, and then to unlock Tier 2, you have to spend cumulatively $100 over time. For Tier 3, $150, Tier 4, $200, so on and so forth. So that is really what a VIP system is in a nutshell. And typically, each time you unlock a new tier, you're going to get whatever rewards are associated with that tier. Now, before we talk about the potential dangers of this, everyone should be aware that just because there is a data mine asset does not mean that this is anything that is coming soon, nor does it mean it's anything that could be potentially added into the game at all whatsoever. We have had plenty of instances in the past where assets have been data mined and they've never seen the light of day. We've had plenty of instances where we've seen data mines added to the game and we didn't see those things added for a year plus. So we don't have any kind of confirmation whatsoever that this is official, that this is actually going to happen. But I have seen that it has caused quite a bit of rift and divide in the community as far as how people feel about it. And I wanted to kind of point those things out because I feel like everybody is thinking that this is something that is potentially imminent. And while it definitely could be, we do not have any confirmation on that at all. And as I've already pointed out, there is always that potential that it may not happen. So kind of take it with a grain of salt, guys. These data mines don't always mean much. But as far as the VIP system in King of Fighters All-Star is concerned, I think that it's a double-edged sword, and it could potentially be a good thing, but it could also be a potential disaster. So I want to start there and talk about what people's worries are, right? We had alluded to in that video the other day covering the data mines about the idea that people are worried that they might be gating certain exclusive content behind a VIP system. Which means, for instance, as an example, and there is no indication of this at all, but as an example, say, for instance, they lock the SS or BS generic memories behind a VIP paywall, right? That would certainly be a problem. That would certainly piss a lot of people off, and that would certainly not be good for the game. That would actually be potentially disastrous. So when it comes to a VIP system, what are the potential issues there? Well, the issues arise when a company decides that they are going to do a VIP system and do just that, that they lock exclusive content behind a paywall, and then new players, beginning players that don't want to spend money, free-to-play players in general, can't keep up with pay-to-play players, and then therefore those whales have a distinct advantage over the free-to-plays. And so far in King of Fighters All-Star, there has not been a huge slant towards pay-to-win. Now, you can always make the argument that people who spend money on the game have an advantage, but you could say that in any game, and that's always going to be the case with a kind of games-as-a-service style game, which most mobile games are going to be. So that's almost something that you sort of accept whenever you start playing a mobile game. Fortunately, with King of Fighters All-Star, that effect is not that great, and really this is a free-to-play friendly game in general when you really think about the amount of rubies that this game gives out. There's tons of games that you could download from the Google Play Store or the iOS App Store and notice that they're definitely not going to be as friendly towards people who don't want to open their wallet. And that's their prerogative, but I'm glad that King of Fighters All-Star is at least accepting of the free-to-play community as much as it is. Now, with a VIP system, though, being implemented, I could see them really messing things up if they aren't careful. And hopefully this is a cautionary tale for them to kind of realize, if anybody at Netmarble watches these videos, that they try not to kind of be tone deaf when it comes to the cries of the community, because really I don't think anybody would be that upset about a VIP system whatsoever, and really they shouldn't, unless there's exclusive content locked in it. Because at that point, you're going to see me flip my lid, because that is not something that you should ever do in any game. Really, it should be a situation more so where this mileage, whatever it ends up being, if it ever ends up being anything at all, should just be extra items that the whales or the pay-to-play players in general would already enjoy if they were buying packages, and just be kind of additions to what they already spend, what they already get in their packages. So for instance, if the mileage was things like, say, a random fest ticket, or a handful of rubies, or, you know, R-stones, or whatever the case may be, whatever items you might typically see in a box that you spend money on in the shop. If it's just those generic things, then really it doesn't change much. Really, it's kind of 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. For those of you who don't know what that saying means, basically it means it's a wash. It means very little, because people who spend money on the game are always going to exist, right? They've always existed, and they are the ones that float the game and allow us to continue to play the game, because they're the only reason why the game stays in business, whether anybody likes to admit that or not. But if they're given an unfair advantage that other players cannot have access to without kind of opening their wallets in the same way, then that's where games begin to stumble and have major issues. So that is where a lot of people are worried. Now, again, we don't have any confirmation that that's the case, and so therefore I feel like everybody should probably just kind of wait and see on this, let it blow over, just ignore it and move on, and we'll have to wait and see how it gets implemented. But if you are going to take a stand on it, I feel like that should really be your stance. It should be that this is okay just as long as you don't gate things that nobody else has access to behind this system. So what are the potential good things about a VIP system? Because I feel like nobody's going to talk about those things. So there's actually quite a few positives that could be bred from a VIP system. For instance, people who are free-to-play, or people who are dolphins, so on and so forth, they would all get that benefit as well from that VIP system over time. It's a situation where, for instance, I think that most people, even free-to-play players, have spent some amount of money on the game at some point, even if it's 5, 10, 15 bucks. So if they add a VIP system in, and obviously the people who spend the most money are going to be able to kind of climb that ladder the quickest. However, the free-to-plays, the people who are dolphins, they will still be able to reap the rewards just at a kind of slower clip. So, for instance, if you're somebody that might spend $100 in a year on the game, say you spend average of less than $10 on the game a month, for instance, I would say that definitely makes you a dolphin or minnow or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the tiers are for spending for these different made-up terms, but say you do that over the course of a year, well, you might be VIP 2 or 3 by the end of the year. And that means that you just get just that many more rewards, more bang for your buck for spending money. Now, granted, the whales out there will probably have already maxed out the tier, but again, if it's just random items that you already have access to through grinding or whatever the case may be, then it really doesn't matter at that point. It's kind of like it's always been. And really that's what people need to keep in mind, is that people spend the money on this game all day. There's plenty of people out there that spend money on this game. Otherwise, it wouldn't be doing as well as it is right now, which it is not doing bad. It's doing about as well as you would expect a game of its ilk to be doing, both financially and as far as time played. So when it comes to that, I feel like that's where people need to really kind of focus their energy and focus their attention. Otherwise, they're going to drive themselves nuts. It comes down to, this is not a potential disaster unless they gate things behind it. Again, if it's a situation where we're just getting the same items we've always had, then no harm, no foul. It's more of the same. And really, at the end of the day, all it's doing is really giving you more for what you're spending in general already as it is. Now, the last point that I do need to make, though, is the other issue that could come out of this is people who have already spent money on the game. And I do agree with this take. I believe this was KOF AS Ashley's take on this, and I do agree with it 100%. Is that if you're going to have a VIP system, you should have implemented it from the beginning. Because those of us who do want to support the game, that have already spent money on the game, are going to feel slighted by the fact that you're just now adding this, a year or two into the life of the game, and all of a sudden you're telling us we don't get any sort of credit for that whatsoever on a VIP system that really, by all rights, should have been in the game from the beginning. So that is something I could see upsetting people. Now, there is always the old saying of whale's gonna whale, and that is true, but at the same time, the last base of fans that you really want to upset that badly and piss off is whales. Because again, going back to the point that they are the ones that make the game go and support the game and make sure the kind of lights stay on, as it were, that's important. So whatever Netmarble decides to do, if they decide to do anything at all with this, the moral of the story, the long and the short, is that they need to make sure that it is fair to everyone, meaning that there are not gated items that no one else has access to or easy access to, and they need to make it to where the people who have already spent money on the game in the past get some form of credit for it, because it really would rub people the wrong way. Whether it's understandable or not, which I would debate it is or it isn't, I don't think it really is. I think that they really just should kind of credit people in some way, even if it's, only partial credit. I feel like there needs to be credit there. But what do you guys think? Do you have kind of your own fears with the VIP system? Let me know in the comment section below. I would love to discuss it. We will be back tomorrow with our usual Saturday chat and chill, and I will see you guys in the next one. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.